Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar, what we called Shaping the Future of Sustainable IT through Industry Dialogue. This is an opportunity to learn more about our work with socially responsible manufacturing. You're going to get some findings from our latest annual review process, and you're going to have the chance to listen in on an exclusive Q&A session with one of the accepted independent social verifiers conducting the interviews with brand owners. So my name is Dennis Svärd. I am the Global PR Manager of TCO Development. We are the organization behind the sustainability certification TCO Certified. And I'll be the host today. And with me, I have our expert in socially responsible manufacturing, Stephen Fuller. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. So yeah, Steve Fuller, Senior Criteria Manager at TCO Development. I lead the development of supply chain and chemical management criteria for TCO Certified. So this means I specialize in developing our roadmap for social responsible manufacturing and safer substitution of hazardous chemicals in IT products and the chemicals used on production lines. I've worked with criteria development and verification methods for over 20 years, not just at TCO Development, I should add. And I'm a strong believer that what speeds up the transition to more sustainable products are criteria that don't only restrict bad practice, such as what not to do and what not to use, but criteria that gathers knowledge and shares it and shows industry what to do and what to use instead. So this understanding led to the development of the TCO Certified Accepted Factory List and the TCO Certified Accepted Substance List. And another good example of how we work to gather and share knowledge on engaging brand owners to take a more active role towards supply chain is from the brand owner annual review process, which is what we'll be talking about today.
Yes, thanks, Steve. And maybe you can start the webinar with a little bit of introduction to our work with social responsible manufacturing.
Yeah, sure. So we have 5 mandates for the criteria in the criteria document. There's a chapter that we call social responsible manufacturing. So supply chain responsibility, that's code of conduct and factory audits. There we have an accepted factory list of preferred suppliers. Supply chain transparency, which we'll talk about more today, and independent verification of anti-corruption and bribery management systems. We have criteria covering supply chain due diligence when it comes to minerals that align with the process for the OECD guidelines. And we have a process for chemical safer substitution. This is for cleaners used on production lines. And we also have ISO standard certification requirements for environmental health and safety and management systems at the factories.
Great, thanks, Steve. So today's webinar is about a specific part of the socially responsible manufacturing criteria in TCO Certified. About the annual review process you just mentioned, can you tell us more about that and why it's so important, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So the mandate in the criteria document we call mandate 2.2, which is supply chain transparency, is, I think, quite unique and a mandate we've been including since 2012. This mandate enforces our position that brand owners have the overall responsibility for the working conditions and the supply chains of certified products. So to fulfill this mandate, the brand owner must appoint a senior management representative that has the authority to ensure that the certified product meets the supply chain criteria in TCO Certified and is available to answer the supply chain criteria in TCO Certified. In addition to this, the brand owners must complete the SAQ, which is a self-assessment questionnaire annual review process that has been developed to assess the maturity of the brand owner supply chain management system in key social impact areas. The review presently has 3 parts that are reviewed by an independent approved verifier, together with the appointed company representative. There's a review of the Public Company Code of Conduct, their anti-bribery corruption management system, and the review of the supply chain management system, which is a questionnaire. So the code of conduct and the anti-corruption parts have minimum levels that must be fulfilled. The supply chain questionnaire, the third part, must also be completed annually, but the level in which the brand owner answers the questions is voluntary. However, this section of the review is designed to independently verify brand owner claims of how they are supporting their suppliers and how they're supporting them to meet code of conduct requirements. So at the end of each year, after the interviews have been completed, we share in anonymized results from all the interviews with the brand owners, and so provide companies the possibility to measure their performance in key social areas against their peers that are also doing the annual review. So by doing this process annually means both we and they gain knowledge and share solutions on where improvements can be made. So we create a harmonized way brands can work together in supporting suppliers. So this data from the annual reviews shows us, the brand owners, are willing to work with us in this way, since we annually see the improvements to the supply chain management systems they're making. Some results from the TCO Certified Generation 8 review process we've now made public on our website.
Thanks. What do you think was the most interesting finding from our latest annual review process?
Yeah, well, without being too specific about one particular point, the point that interests me every time is the interest of the brand owners to work with us to identify areas to improve upon and to become more engaged in this with their supply chains. So I see the improvements they are making and follow the new programs that they're also piloting. So in one example, I saw a major brand owner become involved and invested in 10 of the areas covered in the annual review process when they didn't have any involvement or any investment in these same 10 areas in the previous year's review. So I think that signifies that there is great potential with this process that we do because of this substantial achievement that brand owners can do.
That's very interesting. And speaking of this now, what are we going to see now, Steve?
Sure. So I thought when you asked me to do the webinar that I would present the impact and insights data from the SAQ process myself, but instead I thought it would be a better idea to give listeners the unique chance to hear from the real expert in this area, and that's the social verifier doing the reviews. So here is a recorded Q&A session with the lead auditor and approved social verifier Ashiley Fu from TÜV Rheinland, based in China. So Ashiley has conducted over 200 factory audits and the majority of the review interviews. So she has a very good understanding and knowledge of the challenges and the impact the review process is having on how brand owners manage their suppliers and also work to improve the working conditions at factory level.
And after the interview, Steve will answer questions. So please take the opportunity to write your questions in the chat while listening to the interview. And the interview is pre-recorded because of the time differences. And now let us listen in to the chat you had with Ashiley Fu a week ago, I think it was. All right.
Hello, Ashiley, and thank you for being part of this webinar about TCO Certified SAQ review, the self-assessment questionnaire review, the whole process, and hopefully we'll get into sharing some of your experiences as one of our approved social reviewers for TCO Certified. So you're not the only approved social reviewer for TCO Certified, but I would say that you are one of the most experienced ones. I frequently see your name on the annual review reports we collect from brand owners, and the fact that brand owners return to you to complete the annual SAQ review process is a real credit to you and your colleagues at TÜV Rheinland. But before we get into your experiences in doing the SAQ review, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at TÜV Rheinland?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So firstly, I'd like to say it's a great honor to me to be a qualified social reviewer on behalf of TCO. And I'd like to introduce myself firstly. I'm Ashiley Fu. You can call me Ashley. I have 12 years working experiences on social responsibility, including 2 years experiences in large scale of electronics manufacturer and 10 years experiences working as a third-party auditor and reviewer. In addition, as you know, I am a qualified RBA lead auditor, and my main job here in TÜV Rheinland is to supporting manufacturers to build up their corrective action plans and follow up the plans on behalf of our clients, and conducting social audits to factories like RBVP, CMA, and AMA audits. And also, as an approved social reviewer, I also conduct the SMR interview with different brand owners annually on behalf of TCO Certified. And I have worked in TÜV Rheinland for almost 5 years. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So why did you choose to work with social responsibility in the first place? I mean, why is it important to you?
Yeah, actually, I started my career in social responsibilities by chance. But when I really entered into this industry, I realized that this job gives me a lot of opportunities to learn the social responsibilities development in the manufacturer industries. There's a big changes and improvements have been happened in the industries in the recent decade. It's a great honor to me to see the working conditions, the awareness to the workers and their factory owners, the insight and the engagement level of multiple brand owners have all increased a lot during the past years. I really value this job. It's a challenge, but brings me rich experiences in my career. So yeah. I think that's important to me.
I'm sure it does. So if we turn now to the SAQ, the self-assessment questionnaire review process itself. So most people know about factory auditing, that auditors are employed to visit factories to identify violations to a company code of conduct, for example, in areas of labor and health and safety, so that non-compliances are corrected, their improvement is needed. But few know about or have insight into how brand owners actually work towards supporting suppliers. So they invest, so the suppliers themselves invest and make the necessary improvements and to reduce the risk of violations occurring in the first place or returning. So to review and improve brand owner levels of support towards suppliers, we introduced as part of the TCO Certified criteria, the SAQ review process. So I just wonder if you can tell us what you consider the TCO Certified SAQ review is and actually does.
Okay, of course. From my perspectives, I think TCO not only concentrates on the social responsibilities to the factories manufacturing the products for TCO Certified, but also concerns how does the brand owner influence their development and improvement on social responsibilities to their supply chain. The SAQ review, I think, is a useful way to learn the efforts the brand owners have taken and planned to take. As per the review work I have been done during the past years, we can know the different sorts, the expectations, the best practice and the challenges from various brand owners. And also we can know that the earlier the brand owners engaged, the better to address and reduce the social risks at the very beginning to their suppliers. So I think it can make us better understand the comprehensive situations and support the future collaborations in the industry if possible. So yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you. So could you walk us through the process you have for doing the reviews? Since it's not just an online meeting with a senior management representative, what we call the SMR, there's a lot of preparation and follow-up. I understand that happens to one of these meetings.
Yes, it's not just an online meetings. Before the formal SMR meetings, the brand owners always need to complete the questionnaire we call SAQ in advance with their comments and their supporting documents. It's better to complete the SAQ 2 or 3 weeks ago before to the interview, so I can review it and ask for update if necessary. Sometimes the brand owners may miss some questions in the questionnaire. For example, they might miss to answer the open questions that need their opinions and suggestions. The time before the interview can give them a chance to provide supplemental information in the SAQ. Usually our meeting duration is only 2 hours. So at the beginning of the meeting, I have slides to present to introduce the purposes and the expectations of the review. All the questions we discuss in the interview are selected from the questionnaire based on my prior review. And the meeting aims to get the brand owner's new or supplemental inputs. Of course, sometimes we also clarify the questions and the readings during that meeting. After the meeting, I send the draft questionnaire to the brand owners within 5 working days to get their confirmation. Then we will share the SAQ to TCO portal. That's a general process we do for each review.
Okay. I'm just wondering, not everything can go smoothly at these meetings. From your experience of doing them, what is it that complicates the review? When you actually get down to the meeting, can it be languages or missing documents like you took up before?
Actually, I think language is not a problem because, sometimes we have interpreters from brand owner if necessary. The missing proof document can be provided at any time, I think before, during, or even after the meeting by the brand owners. The big challenge in the process is the wrong document or wrong comments provided from the brand owners. In this case, I need to inform them to update the questionnaire before our meeting, or sometimes I directly clarify the questions or the readings during our meetings with them and get their feedback during our meeting or even after the meeting. Repeat reviews may obviously complete or delay the review process, but it can be always resolved in a reasonable, timely manner in most reviews to ensure our SAQ can be submitted to your site in time. Yeah.
So to every question, you give so like a scoring to it, or a level of compliance. So are there any sort of like debates that go on between you and the SMR about your scoring, or?
Yeah, actually, sometimes it happens, but not for the overall score, just for some specific questions. For example, the brand owners may think the rating I gave was under their expectations. In this case, we will discuss through emails or even phone calls after the meeting. The rating will be updated if they provided sufficient supplemental proof documents or comments. Yeah, that's a general process.
You usually come to an agreement in the end about the level, that they accept.
Yeah,
I was just wondering about
both sides.
Leading on to what is the general mood from the brand owners during the online meeting? How do they,
Yeah, it's usually positive and cooperative from brand owners. I work with Verily and Jim Zhang, my co-workers. They are also the approved verifiers of TCO Certified to carry out the review process. And always we get the brand owners fully support during the reviews from the beginning of the review booking to complete the whole process. So most the process is smooth.
I feel that too. When I have collected the data from the SAQ reviews and I've shared the aggregated results, in an annual report that I do with the brand owners, the response I receive is usually a very positive one. Some comment on the independent review process is helping them to focus their resources and where to place those, to focus the resources on areas to improve upon. So I just wondered, do you experience from some brand owners any unwillingness to be completely transparent, since it takes time and resources to gather all this supporting evidence that you want to support the claims, that some brand owners might skip or accept a lower score on a question since it takes too much time and resources to prove the claim. So what's your understanding about that?
Yeah, my understanding is brand owner might be unwilling to answer partial questions or accept a lower score on questions. But from my experiences, reason is not always unwilling to take time or resources to gather the relevant information. For the information the SMR cannot answer during a meeting, they usually check with their directly responsible individuals in their company to comment and share the information to me after the interview. Some brands may kindly decline to answer the questions, like the question in the questionnaire is asking about living wage. They might have their own concerns and keep cautious for these topics. So maybe for some brands, they kindly decline to answer it. And for some other brand owners may have no idea on the questions the SAQ asked, like the open questions asking their recommendations or opinions, like beyond audits, is there any good ways to address the risks or reduce the risks to their supply chain? Sometimes they do not have the comments because they have no ideas beyond audits.
Yeah, I have to explain that there are sections in the questionnaire that go beyond just asking a question. But if you don't do living wage, what would you consider doing instead of giving living wage?
Yeah.
How would you work in this area? And that's what you're saying, that sometimes they don't have ideas in these additional comments.
That's correct.
Yeah. So some brands include, have several experts now. I've seen in the reports, several experts are attending these online SAQ reviews. But for others, the attendance is much lower, perhaps only one expert to the online part of the process. But it appears that there is a difference in approach between these brand owners. So during the years of doing the SAQ reviews, have you seen the SAQ process has led to an increase in experience and competence on the side of the brand owners, that you're actually meeting the senior responsible person for the supply chain management?
Yeah, actually, for your first question, the brand owners have several representatives attend the online meetings because each of them takes different part of the review. And if only one or two experts present in the meeting, because he or she just the one oversee the supply chain social management. And I say many brands in our interview, they have invested a lot and took more efforts continuously to improve the supply chain sustainability because it's their own obligations, and also many stakeholders and customers also concerned about it. For some brand owners, we can see their increase in experiences and competence during the past years. Examples like new tools are introduced to monitor suppliers' high-risk areas by brand owners on the areas of working hours and vulnerable workers to continuously keep an eye on the areas and drive the improvement. And also online training sessions or the on-site workshops are provided to suppliers, workers, and their management to enhance their awareness on labor rights and the brand's code of conduct. Also, the brand owners, some of the brand owners work with NGOs to share their own worker voice card to workers through third-party audits or their own visits to give workers a chance to report any retaliation, transparency, and other concerns. That's the increase that I know from my reviews, just for some examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have seen sort of like an increase in the competence level anyway in the brand owners, the ones that are actually attending the SAQ reviews. Yes.
Yeah.
So if we look now to, the impact update covers the results of TCO Certified Generation 8, the SAQ in that. So I'd like to turn to the latest SAQ, and this is the one we released for TCO Certified Generation 9, which you and your colleagues actually supported me a lot in the development of this. This latest generation SAQ has been developed not only to assess, as we've done with Generation 8, but to also guide brand owners in a more comprehensive gap review of how and where to focus on improving their supply chain management systems in these key areas that we lift. So it is a very ambitious level that we've created now on these annual improvements. But I remember you still had some concerns about the final version when it was developed, since it was a lot more challenging than we'd ever done before. For the brand owners and perhaps for the review yourself, of course. So now that you've completed the first annual round of the reviews for the new SAQ, how's it gone, do you think?
Yeah, compared with the old generation of the SAQ, the new generation of SAQ becomes more comprehensive, and the options in the questions increased a lot. But for the first year round of the reviews, the results show brand owners are cooperative. They can comment in detail to demonstrate their current practices or expectations toward each options in the questions. So generally speaking, from my side, it works well, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the response has been quite positive, and I've been very surprised actually in some of the levels going beyond best practice even, because the scoring has added an additional level. If you're best practice, but you're also going beyond, you're doing something extra in that, and that's what this new SAQ tries to identify. So, but what is the most difficult issue you think brand owners need to do more with when it comes to supporting their suppliers?
From my opinions, the most challenging thing is to expand or enhance the influences to their suppliers. The big brand owners may have such influences, but while some other brands may not, their influence here may be only focused on their own production lines. The second thing the brand owners can support is, I think, beyond the audits, they can create the programs like capacity buildings or engineering updates to work with their suppliers to build a healthier and safer working condition. Many brands have started the programs and even started for years, but some have not yet. They may be only focused on the third-party audits reports to monitor their performance. Yeah.
Sure. So if we enter the question here, on the SAQ review process, so what do you think is the true worth of doing the SAQ reviews? How has it helped the workers in the supply chains over the years, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really worth to do the SAQ review. It helps us to learn the supply chain's improvement from the aspects of brand owners, and also provide us a possible way to share the industry experience in a comprehensive and integrated manner. During my audits and reviews with brands, we know workers' awareness increased a lot during the past years, and their working conditions and the remunerations became legal and more reasonable. And the grievance mechanism are built to encourage the workers to report their concerns. Yeah, we can learn from the reviews, the works the brand owners have been taken to help workers a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's positive.
Yeah, definitely. So if
Mhm.
we now move away from the SAQ review process, because now I've got you here, I'm sure, and from your experience of doing social auditing for over more than 200 factory
Yeah,
audits. So I'm sure some listeners are wondering about the situation of factory audits during and after the pandemic. Things like scheduling disruptions, COVID recovery plans, and even video factory audits, not being able to enter the
yeah.
factory personally to conduct the audit. So you obviously worked through the worst of the pandemic during this time. How was it to do factory audits at that time?
Yeah. As you know, the pandemic made a lot of restrictions, like travel restrictions to us, to auditors during that time. We need to always keep contact with factories to know the up-to-date news from their local communities or the industry park to decide whether we can do the audits normally. Sometimes the factory cannot accept auditors' visit because auditors' travel history, or sometimes auditors cannot travel to the city where the factory located due to the local community control. So at that time, the remote, or we call the video audits, came out and gave our third-party company and our auditors an option to do the audits. But frankly speaking, we know the effectiveness of the remote audits is not good as the on-site audits because, several uh, restrictions like the video camera and the
Mm.
signal. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
no
the
panoramic moves of the camera. It's just focus on one area.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but how has it developed now? Because we hear that restrictions and controls are lessening. So, how's the situation of factory auditing presently? Has it returned to normal?
Yeah, yes. Fortunately, it has returned to normal right now.
Mm.
From December 2022, China government no longer implemented the travel control policies. And as per our own company's policies, auditors who is not affected by the various can travel around the country to do the audits. And the travels to abroad have also returned to normal gradually. So it's not an impact to us to do the audits nowadays.
Mm. That's very good
Mhm.
to hear.
Yeah,
Well, Ashley, thank you for sharing your experiences and your knowledge, and of course, being a really valued, approved social reviewer for TCO Certified. So, thank you for this chat.
thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. It's my great honor to share my experiences from my reviews works during the past years. It's my great honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Ashley. I think actually we have some questions here. I'm going to have a look here. So first, Steve, we spoke about the interview shared some info about the annual assessment questionnaire changed over the years. Can you give us a little bit more info on why?
Yeah. Well, every generation, when we launch a new generation of TCO Certified, that happens every third year. And of course, challenges change, new challenges come in. Perhaps the review process, the SAQ review process, has identified that the majority of brands fulfill a point that we're taking up in the questionnaire. So then we develop new areas that we want to focus on. If I look back to when we started this in 2012, we started this review process to identify, are we meeting the correct people within the brand owner? Can we get them to a point a senior management representative that is responsible, and what is their competence levels. So that was the first assessment. But actually, when we were identified, when we know that we're meeting the right person, of course, then the questionnaires evolved and started to identify, well, how can we get brand owners more engaged in a harmonized way to support the factories? Because it takes more than just putting demands about meeting quotas on delivery. Factories and management need to understand that these social issues are important and they need to work with them, and we need to gather that in a harmonized way, that we get a level playing field between the brand owners of how they communicate and work with their supply chain. So that's caused a development and exploring new ways and sharing information, because there are some leaders out there that are implementing good programs, good initiatives, and we want to see that broaden out so that the other brand owners also come up to that same level and demand the same kind of code of conduct implementation of corrective action plans that not just one brand owner is doing by themselves. So that's why it's developed. And in the latest generation, we've taken the learnings that we've had since 2012, and we've developed now an assessment questionnaire that not only asks them what they're doing, but also guides them to what they need to do, also what they need to develop. And it kind of like works as a gap assessment, a gap analysis of, okay, you've managed this level. What about these steps? Can you take these steps and to reach best practice? And that's what we've developed now.
Thanks. And we have another question here, looking at the results in the annual assessment questionnaire. From your point of view, what areas seems to be the most challenging?
Yeah, obviously, Ashley took up a good point, which is living wage. This is definitely very challenging. You can see with the results that we have on our website that there's only one major brand owner that is driving a living wage program. Others have researched it, but haven't gone the step of implementing any living wage. There's complicated issues around doing that, obviously, but this is an area that we see needs more action around. There's also areas with worker representation. How do you involve worker representatives in the audit process? Are they democratically elected? And also, a very key issue is recycled material. Are you starting to use and investigate areas of using recycled materials instead of virgin materials? These are challenges that I see that the industry are struggling with at the moment. I think the most progress that I've seen so far is perhaps around the due diligence process, according to the OECD or the UNGP, United Nations Guiding Principles. I see that has reached a level that most brands have aligned with the UNGP. This is perhaps to do with what's happening in Europe with the demands of due diligence, supply chain due diligence that is being implemented in certain countries at the moment. Minerals, yeah, there's a lot happening around the minerals and the due diligence process there that is starting to include more than conflict minerals. We took the step of including cobalt, but we also see that due diligence process is also broadening to include other crisis minerals.
Thanks. And you mentioned a bit that you can read a text about the SAQ on our website. We got the question, are the TCO Certified SAQ results made public for public buyers or others who could be interested?
Are they made public? We've lifted 7 key areas that we think that that we've given an idea of the results. The full issues, and we do this in an anonymized format. We try to be as transparent with the results as possible. And that's what we've done with the report. When I do an anonymized report to the brand owners, of course, there's much more detail in guidance to where they need to start to develop and implement and place resources for improvement if they ask for that advice from us. And we're always willing to work with them to do that, to achieve that.
Thanks. And here's another question, and this is based on a question on the criteria. How long can a factory ignore the findings noticed by the auditor before negative action is taken? And what are these measures? Is there a fixed procedure?
Yeah, ignore is something that we don't accept. If a violation is found in an audit, there has to be a corrective action plan that comes with submitting the audit report, and then we need to see that there is closure of that action, of that finding. So nothing is ignored, and the factory and the management are given time to close that, to create a closure audit. And if it's not done within a specific time period, then the challenge is that they have to do a new initial audit. And then they get a 12-month period to conduct that second initial audit. And by that time, if there are still findings, then corrective action plan has to be developed. And within that 12-month period, there has to be a closure audit that shows that these findings are closed, and the management system at the factory is working as it should do to close that. So that is over a 24-month period, that whole process. When a factory first enters the accepted factory list that is registered as manufacturing certified product, that they get that 24-month period to come up to a better improved category of closing findings. If they don't do it by 24 months, then they're no longer approved as on the accepted factory list. So that is the window that each new factory gets. Factories that are on our accepted factory list and have achieved a high category but need to do a re-audit, they get a 12-month period. So when it comes around again that they have to submit an initial audit report, during that 12-month period, they have to identify the non-compliances, create a corrective action plan, and close those findings to retain their position on the accepted factory list.
Thanks, Steve. We got a lot of questions here. We're going to take one more, I think, before we end this. Will a minimum level of the compliance of the annual assessment questionnaire be part of the criteria in the future?
Yeah, well, as I said before, there are areas where we see that we use this the assessment to guide, and it's working well without making criteria. But then we see that there are areas that need an extra push. And we do transfer points that we have in the self-assessment questionnaire to actual criteria. For example, anti-bribery management system was a part of a previous SAQ, which has now become a part of the base criteria. Also, cobalt we had before, which has also been added now on the mineral supply chain due diligence. And of course, process chemicals. We have worked with the chemicals used on the production lines. That has also become a base criteria within TCO Certified. So we're driving progress and engagement through the annual review process, but sometimes, like I said, we need that additional push through mandating to make the necessary progress.
Thanks, Steve. And As Steve mentioned, you can find more information about the annual assessment and read more about it on our website. And you can also read more about our work with social response manufacturing there. And the video will, of course, be available on demand after this on our website. And please feel free to contact us if you have any more unanswered questions. Saying that, thank you, Steve, and thank you everyone who for listening in. Thank you.
Thank you.